Hey everyone, this is Rabbitearsblog and welcome to my top 10 series. So today's top 10 video I'll be doing today is my top 10 most obscure PBS kids shows. And before I get into this, here are a few words from the channel. Hey guys, if you want to check out more content from this channel, then tune in every Sunday and Monday for new videos. And if you happen to see any videos posted up during the week, that means that there was a bit of movie and TV news that I wanted to talk about, so those will be considered special videos. And if you want to chat with me on social media or see when new videos are being released, then follow me through Twitter and Facebook. And also, please feel free to join the new Facebook group Rabbitearsblog Reviews 2.0, where we talk about movies, TV shows, and video games with other fans of the genres. And now, we return to our regularly scheduled program. Now you guys are probably thinking, PBS kids shows? Why are you doing a video about PBS of all things? I know that PBS is one of those channels that don't get talked about a lot because it's an educational channel, but I used to watch this channel a lot when I was a kid. And the reason why I got the idea to do this video was because me and my sisters were talking about some old shows we used to watch a lot when we were kids, and some of these old shows ended up being obscure nowadays. So I wanted to make a video listing my top 10 most obscure PBS kids shows. Now, some of these shows did not air in the PBS Kids block that came out in 1993. Some of these kids shows came out before PBS Kids became a thing in 1993, so you might see a couple of shows on this list that didn't air on PBS Kids back in the day, but aired in another time. Also, a bit of a warning. This list is based off of my personal opinions, so you might see a couple of shows on this list that you don't agree should be on this list or you think it's not that obscure. But I'm just basing this list on the shows that are not talked about a lot these days or are not currently airing on TV or on streaming services these days. So that's what I'm basing my list on. And now let's get on to the video. So Theodore Tugboat was the series that's about Theodore Tugboat, a tugboat going on these adventures with his friends. And the reason why this show is on the bottom of the list is because I think some people might know about Theodore Tugboat, especially if you see Thomas the Tank Engine, so you might know a little bit about Theodore Tugboat. But when you compare the show to Thomas the Tank Engine, a lot of people don't really talk about the show that much. Like, it was a show I watched a little bit when I was younger in the 1990s, but it's a show that I kind of forgot about compared to Thomas the Tank Engine, which is much more well known and is currently running on PBS to this very day. But yeah, I definitely recommend you check out Theodore Tugboat if you do enjoy Thomas the Tank Engine. So PiP Land is a show about this old man named Pappy who tries to teach viewers how to draw various things. I remember when me and my sister used to watch the show a lot when it first came out in the 1990s. I love the way that Pappy drew a lot of stuff, and the world that he lives in was pretty creative and colorful to look at. And it's a shame that this show doesn't get a lot of recognition. I thought this was a pretty fun show when I was growing up, and I think it's a great show for kids who are learning how to draw. Like, the drawings are pretty simplistic for the most part, so it's not too hard for a lot of little kids to learn how to draw. But I really enjoy watching PiP Land. Kinos Storytime was a series that was about this puppet named Kino who would invite celebrity guests to come in and narrate various children's books to the audience. I remember I used to watch Kinos Storytime all the time when I was little. Like, I really enjoyed this show because I love reading, and PBS was one of the channels that got me into reading in the first place. Well, Reading Rainbow was the show that got me into reading in the first place, but then I watched Kinos Storytime during the 1990s, and it was another show that got me into reading also. It's a shame that it was competing against shows like Reading Rainbow, which also teaches viewers how to read and also has celebrity guests narrating various stories. So I'm guessing because Kinos Storytime was competing with Reading Rainbow at the time, it wasn't as well known compared to Reading Rainbow, but it's still a show that you guys should definitely check out, especially if you like shows that have celebrity guests narrating various children's books to the audience. Next up is The Adventures of Dudley the Dragon. This is basically a show about Dudley the Dragon going on adventures with his two human friends and his other friends as well. I remember when this show aired on Sunday mornings, and it was a big deal to me because every Sunday there wasn't a lot of kids shows that aired on Sundays. Instead, most of the kids shows would air on Saturdays or sometimes the weekday afternoons like Fox Kids did. But Dudley the Dragon was one of the rare kids shows that did air on Sundays, and I remember I watched a couple of episodes of that show, and I liked the show overall. Like, I think it did a good job with teaching lessons towards the kids. Like, there was this one episode where Dudley and his friends meet this prince who ended up being very rude as he would demand more mashed potatoes on his plate, and then he started smoking in the episode. And that part really stand out to me because I rarely see a lot of kids shows that deal with a character who's smoking, but usually when that happens, they usually tell the audience, you know, kids, smoking is bad, and that's what they did in this episode. But yeah, I really enjoyed Dudley the Dragon, and I think a lot of people should definitely check this show out. Next up is Kids Songs, which is basically a series which has a lot of kids coming in and singing all type of random songs throughout. I remember that I used to grow up watching the 1980s video series they had, and I did enjoy some of the songs that the kids sang during that series. But did you know that there was a TV series that came out in 1994 for Kids Songs? I did watch that series briefly. Like, I didn't watch a lot of episodes, but the only reason why I watched that show was because I remember the 1980s video specials. I used to watch when I was a kid, so I was interested in seeing how a TV series about this would pan out. And some of the songs are pretty interesting. I thought it was kind of odd that they introduced these magical characters or these magical creatures that came into the series and sang along with the kids. But it is a show to check out if you're into kids songs or you're into kids bop in general. So Math Patrol was a series that was about a detective named Sydney who would try to solve all these math problems around the world, and he would usually be dressed up in the kangaroo suit to teach to the kids. So the big thing I remember about the show was that it featured a guy in a kangaroo suit, and I actually probably would have forgot about the show altogether if I didn't notice about that fact about a guy being dressed in a kangaroo suit. And for the longest time, I was trying to figure out what the name of the show was that had the guy dressed up in the kangaroo suit, and I found out it's called Math Patrol. I thought the series was pretty decent. Like, I didn't watch it too many times when I was little. The only reason why I remember that show a bit was because, again, the guy was dressed up in the kangaroo suit, and I thought that was odd, but it did stood out to me when I was watching the show. So it does teach a lot of math problems to kids. And again, the most interesting thing about this show is that the detective Sydney was dressed up in the kangaroo suit. So if you're looking out for Math Patrol, definitely check the show out. So Mathika's Math Shop features an elf named Mathika who would teach the viewers about math in her little math shop. And that's basically what this series is all about. Now, for the longest time, I actually forgot about this series, and I didn't remember this series until my sister told me about there was this series about an elf who would teach the viewers math. And I was like, well, what is this show called? I don't remember this show at all. And then when I finally watched the intro of the show, I was like, oh, I think I remember this show a bit. I think I remember some show about an elf teaching kids about math. I thought the show was pretty decent. Like, I've seen a lot of math shows back then, so this show was no different. But it was great that the setting takes place in medieval times, and then you have an elf who's teaching the viewers about math. So I thought that was very interesting with this show, that you have an elf teaching the viewers about math, and that takes place in medieval times. So definitely give this show a watch if you're interested in watching shows that take place in medieval times. So Rabbitears Productions, now known as Rabbitears Entertainment, is basically a series of children's stories that are being narrated by famous celebrities like Danny Glover, Whoopi Goldberg, and many others. And that's basically the gist of the series. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Rabbitearsblog, did you just put this show on this list because you love Rabbitears Entertainment so much? I mean, come on. No, seriously, this series did come on PBS at one time. I know that a lot of people remember Rabbitears Productions for mostly airing on Showtime, but it did air on PBS for a brief while, and it mostly had the Storybook Classic series. But, of course, I'm always talking about Rabbitears Productions because that's my all-time favorite series. My username is actually based off of Rabbitears Productions, but it's a great series if you love listening to fairy tales and folktales in general, and if you like to hear celebrities narrating your favorite fairy tales and folktales, I definitely recommend Rabbitears Productions. But yeah, it did air on PBS at one point, just a Storybook Classic series though. So Gather Round was the show that came on PBS, and basically it has two hosts doing the show. So one of the hosts was a man who was narrating the story, and the other host was a woman who was drawing up all the characters and the setting for the stories being told. To be honest, I actually forgot about Gather Round until I came up with this list. It was a show I used to watch a little bit when I was little, but I did forget about when I got much older. And what I really liked about this series was that it has the man narrating all these famous fairy tales and folk tales towards the audience, and then you have the woman drawing out all these characters and the settings while he's narrating the story. And I thought that was really interesting. And it's a shame that this series doesn't get a lot of recognition. I think it's a pretty good series, especially if you're into drawing. I think this is a really good series to watch if you like to do drawings, and if you like fairy tales and folk tales in general, this is definitely a good series to get into. The last show on this list is Bee Fables, and this is probably the most obscure PBS show ever. I mean, this show is so obscure that there's no Wikipedia page about it, there's no clips about it on YouTube or anywhere else. I had to literally take pictures of the show with my cell phone because there's no other place you could find this show. And you guys are probably wondering, well, Rabbitearsblog, why didn't you just stream some of the episodes onto your laptop? Well, as of this video, I don't have the equipment to do that, so the best I could do was take pictures of the show through my VCR. But yeah, this show was basically about an old man named Mr. Featherbee who teaches two kids about science by telling them stories dealing with characters that had to use science to solve their problems. And that's the gist of Bee's Fables. But yeah, this is the most obscure show on PBS. A lot of people don't really know about this show or the fact that it even existed. And I'm guessing the reason why this show was so obscure was because it's very similar to Sesame Street in terms of they use puppets for characters. And because Sesame Street proved to be much more popular than Bee's Fables, this show tends to get thrown to the wayside, and a lot of people just don't really remember Bee's Fables. So that's my top 10 most obscure PBS kids shows. And after doing this list, I started to realize why a lot of these shows became obscure, because they were competing against other shows that deal with the same content like math or science and stuff like that, but then they had to deal with shows that did a little better. Like, for example, you have shows like Math Patrol and Mathika's Math Shop that both deal with math, but then you have a show like Cyber Chase which also deals with math, but it does it in a more interesting way and is therefore much more well remembered. And then you have shows like Bee's Fables, which also use puppets as main characters, but then it's competing with shows like Sesame Street, which is much more successful and is still running to this very day. So I can see why some of these shows ended up being obscure, because they're competing with shows that are much more popular than they are. But despite all that, you should definitely give these shows a watch and see for yourselves if you enjoy these shows or not. Well, that's my top 10 list for my most obscure PBS Kids shows. And tell me in the comments down below, have you seen any of these shows before? And if you have, which ones were your favorites? And what are some other obscure PBS Kids shows that I haven't mentioned in this video that you want to mention in the comments down below? Please feel free to comment down below. Well, hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Rabbitearsblog, and I'll see you guys later. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed this video. So, if you want to bring some more love to obscure media, then check out the new design in my Teespring store. Obscure media is the best. Seriously, obscure TV shows and movies are like the best things to look for. So grab a shirt today and save 20% off your next order by using my code RABBIT20. Hey guys, like this video? Then please feel free to hit that like button. And also, hit that subscribe button for more content about video games, movies, and TV shows from this channel. And now, let's roll the credits, please.